Welcome everybody, and good to see so many friends come along this evening from their school, and we'll be hearing from some of those a little bit later on. Big warm welcome. So good evening to everybody. There's no fire alarm planned for this evening. Should the alarm sound, please leave by the nearest available emergency exit. So the closest exits are through the glass doors behind you and to my left, and all through the double doors that lead onto the river path behind you. So, and then please meet outside Tower House. Members of the public are welcome to make their own recordings of this meeting using whatever non-disruptive method they think are suitable. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting is being filmed and made available to view in live and archive form via the council website. If you are seated in the public gallery, it is possible that the cameras may capture your image. If you wish to avoid being filmed, it is recommended that you make a member of the staff aware and they can direct you to sit where that won't happen. The Westgate Gardens are on the riverbank side are locked, so members of the public must leave the Guildhall by the side exit behind the glass door normally, and only behind that way in case of emergency. Okay, so before we start working through the agenda, we're going to receive some representations from members of the public. These can be on any subject as long as the speaker has registered with us in advance and lives and works in the district. Each speaker will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. The whole public representation section will last a maximum of 20 minutes. And I'm pleased to say that we have 3 speakers registered to make representations tonight. There will be no discussion following the speaker's contribution, but the cabinet members may later refer to the issue raised if it's pertinent to this agenda. So, let me find out who's the first person to go. So, and this is Lisa? Yeah, Liza. So, first up is Liza, please. Okay.
Good evening, members of Canterbury City Council. Thank you so much for having us tonight and being able to speak with you. My name is Leia, and I'm here with my team members, Lisa, Xavier, and Easton. This evening, we're raising awareness about the conditions of the riverside and the problems it is creating. This issue is not only affecting the pupils of our school, but also the local community. By bringing the issue to your attention tonight, we hope to encourage positive changes and remind everyone how important the riverside is to Canterbury. We believe that with care and action, this place can once benefit both students, but also the wider public. Several people who regularly use the river walking path have raised a number of concerns about the safety and maintenance in this area. One of the main issues is that the lighting along the river path is too dim, and there are not enough lights. Poor visibility makes it difficult for people to see where they're walking to, especially at night. This increases the risk of accidents, including the dangers of falling into the river during high tide. The situation is made more serious by the lack of railing or barriers to protect the pedestrians. Another concern is the violence that has been reported near the riverside. Many people feel uneasy due to the absence of police patrol and the lack of CCTV cameras in this area. This has led to the people feeling unsafe, particularly during evening hours and morning hours. There's also issues relating to the conditions of the environment. Overgrown bushes are blocking the path and creating hidden areas that can be used for unsafe activities. These bushes have also collected trash and litter, which pollutes the area and harms the local wildlife. We have created a sample model of the river path and how it would look like. In conclusion, the issues along the river path are not a matter of appearance, but also a matter of public safety, of the community, and the environmental responsibilities. Improving all the factors that we have stated would greatly reduce the risks currently faced by the residents and visitors and overall improve the atmosphere of the riverside. I respectfully ask the Council to consider our concerns seriously. Thank you very much.
Okay, our next speaker is Cece.
Good evening to all members of Canterbury City Council. My name is Cece, and our project is regarding concerns about litter and vandalized bins around Canterbury, specifically around the area of the River Stour. Our aim of this project is to prevent this by updating the design of the bins, as it can cause many issues for the surrounding area. It can harm wildlife, cause severe pollution, specifically in the river, and it can damage Canterbury's image, especially to visiting tourists. We recently interviewed locals who have also had more concerns, especially regarding the rat population. I found out that many teachers had a fear of rats with the interviews, and we have very sweet dogs at the school who apparently stop by to try and eat the litter flying around, which is clearly not a good thing. So we thought of different designs for these bins to try and prevent this. The first bin design we thought of was a compactor bin, which basically can compress the litter inside the bin. This can prevent overflowing, and it can encourage people to put their litter inside the bins, as it won't fill up. There's also the issue since this bin is very heavy, it can prevent people from literally picking up the bins and throwing them in, which obviously can make the bins less available and increase litter. Our second design we thought of was the pedal bin, which can open the bin using a foot pedal. This can prevent odors. It can encourage people to throw their litter away, as it is more hygienic. Our third option is the character style bin, which its strength lies in how engaging it is. It doesn't have to be this character specified in the image, but we thought it would be a nice idea, as it can bring the members of the community together, specifically the children, to try and create something nice that can encourage people to throw away their litter. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Cece. Appreciated. Okay. And our next speaker is Amy, please.
Good evening, members of the City Council, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. We are a group of students who have been working together on a project exploring how urban growth is affecting wildlife in Canterbury. My name's Amy, and I'm joined by my teammates Marsha and William. Over the past few weeks, we have reviewed ecological evidence, planning policy, and local concerns to understand how development can meet the district's needs while also protecting the natural environment. We recognized that new homes, jobs, and infrastructure are essential to Canterbury's future. The challenge, in our views, is not whether development should happen, but how it can happen in a way that protects the natural system that makes the district healthy, attractive, and resilient. Canterbury is at the moment experiencing significant pressure for housing and transport improvement, particularly around expansion areas near Surrey, Winchip, and the urban edge close to the Blean. These locations sit within or besides valuable habitats including ancient woodland, farmland, and river corridors that supports protected and declining species within the area. Our research indicates that development in such areas can lead to habitat loss, fragmentations, and increased disturbance from lighting, noise, and traffic. Species such as hedgehogs, bats, and woodland birds are particularly vulnerable since they rely on connected landscapes and woodland. When green spaces become separated by road and housing, wildlife movements becomes difficult, population shrink, and local extinctions becomes more likely. This is not only an environmental concern. Biodiversity in and around Canterbury supports natural drainage, cooling during extreme heat, air quality, and residents' mental well-being. When nature is weakened, communities can become more exposed to flooding, poor health outcomes, and rising long-term costs. We appreciate the Council works within national planning frameworks, including biodiversity net gain, and Canterbury has already shown ambition in promoting sustainable transport and environmental improvement. Our intention is not to add barriers to growth, but to help ensure that these commitments achieve the strongest results on the ground. Evidence from conservation professionals shows that benefits are greatest where habitats are connected, visible, and properly managed over time. Because major growth expected in and around the district, the choices made now will shape the ecological character of Canterbury for generations. We would therefore like to suggest several practical and achievable ways to strengthen delivery. First, habitat connectivity should be a central design principle. New developments near places such as the Blean or along river corridors could include continuous green routes, hedgerows, an accessible open space that allows wildlife to move between existing habitats rather than becoming isolated in small hatches. Second, lighting design can make a major difference. Using directional, motion-sensitive, and carefully shouldered lighting near sensitive edges can reduce disruption to bats and insects while fully maintaining safety for residents. This is about precision, not darkness. Third, on-site biodiversity should be prioritized whenever possible. When habitats are created within the neighborhoods experiencing challenge, people can see the benefits directly and are more likely to support development. Fourth, long-term management is essential. Without maintenance, early ecological gains can easily be lost. Clear responsibility and monitoring help ensure public investment deliver lasting value. Finally, residents themselves can be partners in success. Community education, wildlife-friendly gardening, and local involvement in monitoring can build pride and reduce conflict between people and nature. Canterbury has a real opportunity to lead the South East by showing that growth and nature recovery can move forward together. By embedding ecological thinking into decisions made today, the councils can protect wildlife while also improving life for future communities. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. That's much appreciated. I know. I think we've come this far. That was. Did anyone? I know it's slightly against protocol. We don't have to. Did anyone want to say anything at all? Connie.
Well, obviously, to thank you for coming along, and it's always very interesting for us to hear the views of young people like yourself. I think you're pushing on an open door with a lot of these things, and we'll certainly be looking very much at some of your ideas. I've written down an action point because as soon as you said, sort of violence and sort of disturbance along the riverside, that's in my portfolio. So, I will look at that. If I could just say that rats are part of the wildlife of a river and Toad of Toad Hall and, ratty and things like that. Was it more than 5 foot away from a rat? So I think dogs are always going to be chasing rats and things like that. But I wanted to thank you very much for coming along and to say that I, for one, have made an action point. Thank you.
Thanks, Connie. I've been scribbling away as well. Mel, you're next. Thank you.
I could bring it up in the announcements as well, because it's kind of a combination of the two, but I'll say it now, shall I?
Take the announcement.
Yeah, okay.
Mention it through
So
the
I just
announcement
wanted
in a
to say
minute.
Thank you for coming and speaking. And officers, you've got a job on your hands now. We're expecting 3D models for everything now. I have to say that. Okay, but yeah, a lot of you, especially the environmental one. And what I really want to say that I really appreciate what you're saying. There are a lot of strategies that the council has that take all of the things that we've said into account, but we could always do a lot better. There is a biodiversity consultation coming out very soon. I haven't got the exact date. Does anyone also know? It should be this week. That will be running for 3 weeks, and I hope to go out to all the different areas of the district to help consult and also to visit some schools as well. So I'd be more than happy to come to your school and we could do a little workshop or something on that and get you involved in the consultation. That'd be great.
Thanks, Mel. That's appreciated. That I'm sure that offer will be taken up. Alex, and then Mike.
Yes, thank you very much for coming along. That was wonderful, and you all spoke very well. And I'm particularly impressed by the leaflet. As any of us who stood for office, we're always impressed by a good leaflet. It's excellent work. I think particularly the Riverside area, that hits on a lot of what it is that we do, what it is that we want to do for our area. I think you've hit on a really interesting issue there, because you've got the environment, you've got moving around the city comfortably, and then people feeling safe in the city as well. And those are concerns that are echoed by residents across the city, and it's an area that I walk through a lot. And you're quite right, it does make a big difference, and all it takes is one unpleasant experience, let alone something even worse, for a visitor to the city through that area, and that could have a huge knock-on effect. So it's definitely something that we want to make better. And having brought the model along as well, you've given us some good ideas of how to do it. But I think it's fantastic that you've taken something that's quite local to where you are, but understood all of the bigger issues around biodiversity and how people live within that. So very impressive, and certainly given us something to think about. And we're going to have to up our game a little bit to match what you've brought to us tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Mike, just to finish off, if you wouldn't mind. Thanks, man. Good.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to thank you all for coming tonight. It's been a pleasure when I came and worked with you at the school one day. It's nice to see you all back here. And the speeches you made tonight have been some of the best we've heard in this chamber. Certainly, better than many of the councillors make. So, and certainly very well researched as well. So I'm sure we've all been listening. Things don't often happen as quickly as we might like in the council, but I think many of the things you've talked about, we will get to see change over the forthcoming years. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And I can't add to that. I think it was enjoyable. Thank you all for taking time this evening. Don't miss your homework too much, but you can hang on for a few more minutes with the first couple of items, and you'll get the full benefit of democratic process that will either put you off it for life or maybe interest you. I don't know. Here we go. Okay, so welcome to the agenda part of the meeting of the Cabinet. The Cabinet is the part of the Council responsible for most day-to-day decisions. It is chaired by the leader, who is elected by the Council, and that's me, Alan Baldock. The other Cabinet members are as follows: Councillor Sol, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Finance; Councillor Castle, Cabinet Member for Property and IT; Councillor Hazelton, Cabinet Member for Housing; Councillor Dawkins, Cabinet Member for the Environment and Climate Change; Councillor Charlotte Cornell, Cabinet Member for Council Services, Culture and Heritage; Councillor Chris Cornell, Cabinet Member for Economic Development and Inclusion and is the Coastal Towns Champion; and Councillor Ricketts, Cabinet Member for Tourism, Transport, Performance and the Oversight and is our Rural Champion; and Councillor Nolan is Community Engagement, Safety and Enforcement. So, So the Cabinet collectively provides strategic leadership for the Council. Okay, Lauren, apologies for absence. That's item 1 on our agenda.
We've got no apologies, Chair.
Thank you. That's good to know. Declarations of interest by members or officers. Have we any declared already, Laura?
We've had none in advance, Chair.
Thank you. I've got none on that. Has anybody got any they want to declare in advance? Of course. Okay. Yeah, Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Just a small one. Obviously, Parish Council precept. I'm also a Parish Councillor for Littlebourne. It's on the agenda, just for transparency.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for that. No other declarations. Of course, if anything through the meeting you feel that you should declare, then just shout out and we'll make a note. So that's fine. Yeah, go on, Granny. There was a declaration, yeah?
Well, I always forget this, but thankfully Councillor Dawkins is on the case that I have to declare that I have an allotment. So thank you for that,
Yeah.
Councillor Dawkins.
Some nice fruit as well, actually, and vegetables. Yeah, thank you, Connie. That's great. Good point. Thank you. Okay. Now we have a chance for any cabinet members that wish to make announcements to inform the general public through the broadcast that's here today, or anybody in the public gallery. Any announcements they want to make? Just Connie, go ahead.
Well, good news. I attend the Kent and Medway Police and Crime Commissioners panel on behalf of Canterbury City Council, and I just want to pass on that Canterbury City Council got high praise in the report, which I will ferret out that extra paragraph in the 555 pages and send it on. But I think it's useful to recognise success, and it was the praise was for the partnership working between the council, the police, and of course we had the money for Acorn Security, and the fact that the feedback that the police got was that the visible presence was so important in quelling the antisocial behaviour that happened along the coast. And it's something sometimes we forget about. We do remember, you know, Kent Online is very quick to put sort of problems up, but we don't often say thank you to the staff. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the staff of the council for the way that they worked and used all the levers available to stamp out that antisocial behaviour. And I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Yeah, that's it's certainly been well received by the public in Herne Bay, and certainly by us as well. It certainly is. I'll just make a couple of observations, really, more than anything. For me, I think I was reading through the agenda for this evening, and obviously budget setting can be a bit of a dry old subject, but it's not for Mike. Mike loves budgets and spreadsheets and stuff. But anyway, and I think what struck me, and I would say this, wouldn't I, but under 18 months of a Labour government, the relationship between local government and central government could not be more different than it has for the 14 or so years before that. And it struck me that, you know, this is the first time that I've ever been a councillor and not had to go sit in a budget meeting where there's not had to be some significant, many thousands of pounds cuts to budgets, where literally this morning I was on a Zoom call with the Secretary of State to clear up a few anomalies generally on some policy that was set out over the weekend, and he's happy enough to talk to us as mere district councillors. And there's what's called a Fair Funding Formula 2. It's come out, which sets the government's help to us as councils in our budgets, but not sets it a year at a time, which used to be the policy. So we were guessing how much money, if any, we were going to get. This time, that's set for 3 years and allows our teams to set budgets going forward right the way through to what will be the end of Canterbury City Council. So, and another thing that struck me as well, and Pip and Gary Pesquet and what have you, we'll talk about this more later on in the housing budget, the fact that they recognise the extremely difficult situation the old policies of rent freezes caused for housing, social housing, and the fact of being able to build it, maintain it, give people decent houses to live in, is slowly, or it's got the levers are being pulled, as Connie would say, to make sure that that is a lot better going forward, and we can start to correct what's been basically 14 years of absolute chaos with the housing revenue accounts. So we're making progress on there. So I think there's some good news that we can celebrate, and we look into a budget that looks very different than the budgets I've ever gone forward from previous years. So I think that was just worth mentioning, again, for people to listen in and agree or disagree with. So, that's not there now, is it? Yeah, next thing was going to be public participation, and Councillor Carnac was going to make some, do a little bit of a presentation about the Herne Bay town plan, and I think she shared lots of things with Chris, I think, I'm sure, and with me as well on the phone. She's not been very well today, and basically she was going to help us to, well, she was going to put over her point about the plan, which she didn't disagree with, but she had some ideas for making some more positive action, but we would take those away, and we're very happy to listen to those as well, so that'll be fine. Okay, the next thing is we need to, like all good meetings, we need to confirm the minutes of the last one. That was on the 19th of January. Was there any comments at all on that? If not, we can confirm them by general assent. Okay, we're all happy with that? Thank you for that. That's really good. That was... Right, item 6 now, references from committee. It was overview committee, wasn't it? The one that's relevant here, wasn't it? 22nd of January, the overview committee. I think we've all had a listen and a look at that committee meeting. I think we'll be delving into their thoughts and about that. Has anybody got any thoughts or comments they want to share at this moment? I thought it's always amazing to have the overview committee before cabinet. I think it's a really helpful piece of policy, a helpful piece of process that helps us to understand what's before us in a much wider context. So, are we happy with that? I just thank them for their honesty, straightforwardness, and some great points as well. So that's really good. Okay, so now we're going to we start item 7. This is part A, which will be, and this is the items that can be considered with any public participation. So if anyone's booked down to speak, I don't know whether there are any other. No, there's no speakers, but this would be part where somebody can speak and present. So the first item is council tax 2026-27 to approve the council tax for the district, including Kent or KCC and Kent Fire and Rescue and Kent Police. So I'm going to ask. It's going to be actually Councillor Sol Knight tonight, but he's got the first half of the meeting. He presents a little bit, and then, like a good show, at the end of tonight's meeting, he's got the final slot. So build up to it slowly, Mike. And so I'd like you to present about the council tax. Let's make sure we all understand what's going on. The guests tonight. Let's go for it. Thank you very much. Nikki Mills is here as well to help out if you need to.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure our guests tonight will be riveted by this item on the agenda. It's probably the most amount of residents we've ever had at this item, so I will try to make the most of it. We're being asked on this item to recommend to Council that Council approves the formal resolution set out in Appendix B to set the council tax for 26-27, and that if any of the precepting authorities changed their precept figure before council on 23rd of April, the director, finance and procurement be authorised to present to the council a revised resolution. So this is really just setting the council tax. It is not the detail of the budget, and we have to do this.
You're proposing that, Mike?
I will
are you?
propose that.
And somebody want to second that? Thanks, Pip. Okay.
Okay. So it's usually uncontentious, and it's a statutory requirement we undertake every year in order to set the council tax for next year. As outlined in the report, the item sets out the calculations required to determine the council tax for the City Council, as well as for each of the parishes within the district. The proposed council tax is £254.43. That represents an increase of £7.39 or 2.99% on the 25-26 council tax. So that's the sort of the base figure. That amount is then payable by residents, is then adjusted in line with council tax bands A through to H, as detailed in the report. Properties in bands A to C will pay less, while those in bands E to H will pay more, in accordance with the graduated scales set by government. Finally, the total council tax payable by residents will also include the precepts from Kent County Council, the Kent Police and Commissioner, and the Kent and Medway Fire and Rescue Authority, along with the parish council precepts. So that's it, really quite straightforward.
Thanks, Mike. I think that's why we do what we do for 254 quid, and council tax bills are what, say around about 1,500 to 2,000 odd pounds, aren't they, for a band D house? So that's where the other bits are made up by KCC and police and fire and that sort of stuff as well on top of that. So I think that's a point to remember. So does anybody want to take that forward? Charlotte.
I'm working. Thank you. Now, we've done an excellent job in keeping our increase low as we can in order to keep delivering an excellent service for our residents. And I'm really absolutely fully supportive of the proposal that you're bringing forward here, Mike, and of course we'll vote for this. This is our recommendation to go to full council, and I'm just very aware that in the year where we are recommending a community governance review, people will look at the table of parish council increases and will have questions around how some of the parish councils have precept rises of up to 133%, where some of the parish council tax base is now more than 50% of ours. And that parish councils have uncapped, that they are uncapped and can raise their precept by as much as they like. Indeed, if Bridge Parish Council raised their precept by the same amount next year, they'd be charging their residents more than we do. I am flagging this because I'm sure it will be discussed at council and in later meetings where the CGR is relevant, and how we, for those unparished areas, can keep tax base low and affordable when evidence from some parish councils is not necessarily that. And I'm sure that Bridge Parish Council and who's the other one, 81%, Addisham, have some excellent plans for this money. But it's making sure, I hope they have communicated to their residents what those plans are, and I hope that we continue to stress to our parish councils to follow best practice on affordability and cost sharing and resource sharing, and we extend our arm to them where possible to share those resources to keep the council tax base low for all our residents, because the cost of living crisis is a very real thing, and some of those rises do really worry me. I'm just putting that on the record. I'm sure it will be discussed at full council and later on the CGR route, but of course I support our very, very reasonable 2.9 band D proposals.
Yeah, totally agree on that. Mike, do you want to come back on that?
Yeah, just by way of information, I have quite good relationships with a lot of parish councils. I have 16 of them in my county council patch, so I get to see how all of them operate. And when you look down that list, there are some that you might think would be very similar parishes, but their precepts are very different. So you can find two fairly large ones and find one's high and one low, and find two quite small ones and find similar situation. A lot of this, well, I think there are two reasons for this. In the last year, certainly the additional national insurance charge implemented by the Labour government has has added an extra cost to some of the parish councils. And also many parish councils have started to prepare for the fact that they probably won't get concurrent function funding under a unitary council. And behind many of those other large amounts, I know there are significant capital projects that they're undertaking and are getting ready for. So it need not be like that. Some parishes only represent a few hundred people, and to pay a clerk, even if it's for just a few hours a week, can be a huge chunk of that precept. I would hope that with larger town councils, there can be some economies of scale there as well. But yeah, it's easy to pick out the worst ones, but you can also pick out the lower ones, and each are very different, and there's a story behind all of them. And at the end of the day, if you don't like your parish councillors, you can either not elect them or stand for council yourself.
I think I called Connie's eye, but I'll just say, I think the thing that strikes me is the massive difference between the highest and the lowest. I think that's what I find really, really hard, actually. But anyway, yeah, it's a good point that both of you raised. Did I see your hand, Connie? Okay. Lee, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up on your point just there, that was the note I'd made, the top to bottom, and me and Mike obviously have both parish areas. He's got a lot of them. I think the main one as well is that a lot of the parishes avoided putting them up for many years, so they sat at very low levels to potentially appease, we won't put up 5%, 7%. But I think having sat on Littlebourne and been in the discussions and been at all the other parish meetings, when you look at the actual core number, yes, it could potentially get to a similar level of £250, but you've got one as low as £34 that's obviously not delivering the same amount of services potentially. So you've got villages with 100 residents that have got a recreation ground, and you've got 1,000 residents that have got recreation grounds. So the costs are the same for those, but it's a far smaller precept. So I think going into LGR, they've got a bit nervous, a lot of the parishes, I think, and trying to be a bit more prepared. So it's Councillor Soul and I exchanged emails about some of the percentages because we knew that would crop up. But I think you'll find a levelling out that will crop up over the next 3 to 5 years, I think, as the funding in the new authority gets sort of materialises nationally, I think.
That's a good point. Thanks. Anybody else? No? Okay. So we need to take it's been proposed and seconded, isn't it? So we're going to vote now, and obviously a vote for is to accept the proposal.
Passed unanimously with 9 votes, Chair.
That's great. Okay. Right. Next item 8 on the agenda is another riveting piece of legislation that we need to do every year, and that is to approve our pay policy. Got our chief exec here to speak if we need to on that. And Connie, can you introduce the item, please? It's on your portfolio. Thank you.
I'm very happy to introduce this. As people know, my background is in HR. So I always think you can take the woman out of HR, but you can't take the HR out of the woman, as it were. There's nothing that is particularly controversial at all, as you would expect in this, but I just wanted to draw people's attention to a couple of things which I think is worthy of discussion, which is that the fact that we, as an administration, are continuing to pay the living wage as opposed to the minimum wage to make sure that our lowest paid members of staff are adequately remunerated, whatever job they are actually doing. And the other thing which struck me is that the remuneration of the chief officer and the median salary is 3.6. Now, I think that's something to celebrate. Perhaps the chief execs would not agree with that. But it means that we have a harmony within the council, that we don't have chief execs sitting on sort of, fat cats is the phrase that's often used in the popular press. We don't have fat cats. We have very resilient and sleek cats, indeed, at the top. Cool cats, indeed. But we do need to make sure that we keep a reasonable proportion between sort of the median level salary. And the other point that I wanted to make is the fact that in 2 years' time, Canterbury City Council won't exist. And how do we keep and retain the best team to be working for us? And I'd like to commend Susie Wakeham for leading the training and development that's going on in the council, because although this isn't in the pay, training and development is very much part of the contract, the psychological contract. It's not just about pay. So I'd like to thank Susie for spearheading that and leading that, and to say that I would commend this to the Cabinet, and it will go forward to the council. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Thanks, both of you. Appreciate that. Okay. Does anyone want to say anything on that at all? Are you happy? We need to vote to approve it, so we do that. Yeah. Okay. This obviously vote for is to go to council for it's recommendation to council. Okay.
Let's carry with 9 votes, Chair.
Just take a moment or two while our guests take some time to leave and go back and do some homework, hopefully. So we'll take a moment or two to take your time. There's no rush. So. Alex, what we do is they can go home and watch it on YouTube while they're doing the homework. Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. It's great. So we'll start on part B of the meeting. So let's go. So this is where there's no public participation. I don't think we've got any booked anywhere, have we? But or disappointed from, I should say. These items have been through overview before us, so where the chance for public participation has been taken. Okay, so it's already been pre-announced, really. I think just before the little break, and that Alex is disappointed to have lost his audience on here. But this is to propose changes to the conditions of council car parks. This is item 9 on our agenda. So Richard Moore is here, Head of Transport and Environment. So Richard's here to help out with any technical queries that we might have. And Alex is going to introduce the item. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. I have to say I probably would have left the room if I was their age as well, if a parking thing came up. It's only in my later years that I've come to appreciate the nuances of parking strategy. So before you this evening is to resolve that item numbers 1 to 4 set out in appendix numbers 1 and 2 are implemented on the 1st of April 2026. And those item numbers 1 to 4 are, as he scrolls, to increase the hourly rate tariff at Band 1 car parks by 10p, which is 2.7%. All off-street parking permits to increase by approximately 4%. Redesignate Reculver Country Park from Band 2 at £2.70 an hour to Band 3 at £1.90 an hour. And allow a sum for parking discounts offers for events. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Lovely.
Thank you. So Mike seconded that proposal. Thank you.
Yes, so as you'll see from that, it's not, as in previous years, a huge change. In fact, it was the smallest possible change we could realistically make, having not made much of a change at all last year. And this means that for the third successive year, there are certain car parks in the district where the price hasn't risen at all. Obviously, a lot of the focus has been on the increase in Band 1 car parks, the most expensive car parks. And I know I'm sort of repeating a message that everybody in this room will have heard a lot in the past, but there is a very good reason why we introduced that. And I think you can see from the report that what we intended has indeed been happening and continues to happen. This is a continuation of that policy. It's fairly light touch. It's not a big increase. And I think you can see from this that where people, particularly those who've responded to the consultation, are complaining about the rises to Band 1 car parks, there are even more people that have understood what we're doing with parking and are voting with their tyres, as it were, and going from those more expensive car parks to the cheaper car parks. I think you can see that the Band 1 car parks, the parking acts are down by 78,000 in Band 1 car parks, and they're down by just over 2,000 in Band 2 car parks. And those increases are balanced by the fact that the Band 3, the cheaper car parks, are up by 25%, and park and ride use is up by nearly 70,000 as well. So I think we've got a really good demonstration of, by nearly 60,000 park and ride, sorry. I just thought I'd pop in a... but we've got a really good demonstration there that people are moving, that people are changing their behaviour, and that those Band 1 car parks aren't being used as much. We got some very good feedback from Overview, which I think is important to note here tonight. And I think there is obviously a slight difference between the tail in Canterbury and the tail in Herne Bay and Whitstable. We have seen a decrease across the overall number of parking acts, whereas it's slightly increased in Canterbury. It has decreased overall in Whitstable and Herne Bay. There are some environmental factors for that, and I think it's noted in the report that 2024 was the wettest summer since 2015. I can certainly vouch for the fact that as I was camping in Kent during 2024, it was incredibly wet, and that has a massive effect on the coastal car parks, as does the fact that certain parts of William Street and various other car parks on the coast were closed for a period of time, which actually can deliver quite a significant impact on those car parks when you look at it in stark percentage terms. It's not ideal, obviously, and that's something that we want to rectify and look at. And I think, as you can see from the change to Reculver, that we do listen when people say, you know, this is out of step with the way people use our car parks, and we're always looking to review it. Some of the other feedback from Overview was, you know, can we look at incentives? Can we look at free parking here? Can we look at things that we can do? And I think working together with some of the grants that we've been able to do, we've been trialling some free parking in the coastal car parks over the winter months, and it does seem that that's had some success, certainly in terms of the number of people signing up for the residence rate discount on those car parks as well. These are the things that, now that we have the policy there and we demonstrated that the overarching policy works, that we can now, within that structure, start to look at what we can do to reinvest some of that money to see whether we can use car parks as an economic lever to help. But again, remain convinced of the fact that there are plenty of studies which don't really say that parking is that much of a factor in terms of people's choice of destination, that particularly when you're talking about people visiting from outside the area, it's something they discover when they're there. And as we also discovered with the KPIs, where we're measuring other factors, is that bus and train usage is up over the same period as well. So while our car parks are still in a healthy financial state, and while we can demonstrate that change, there is really good evidence that people are using alternative transport methods as well to visit our city centres during a period of time where parking is doing okay. I think I've probably almost read out the whole paper there, but that is how much I enjoy it, and I think it's only important that since we've been left in the room that you should listen to it in full detail. I think it's a really good detailed report, and I will commend it to anyone listening at home to read the detail. Richard's put together a very good report there, and there are some really good responses from the consultation as well. But I do recommend that we go through with the planned changes that we put out for consultation as they are. So thank you.
Okay, that's great. I've got Pip first, and then to follow straight on Mel, please.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I enjoyed reading it, and I enjoyed listening to that all over again. Thank you, Alex. And seriously, I'm impressed at the change in the drop in use of the band 1 and band 2, as we've wanted, the increase in use of band 3 in the park and ride, as well as the interesting information, although not directly within our control, of the bus and rail increase in use. And I just want to kind of put on record my comment, really, that I hope that this will be able to be used as part of the body of evidence when we put forward our local plan for inspection and approval later on in terms of our transport strategy. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Mel.
Yeah, so thank you very much. And so I guess last year was the more painful year, wasn't it? So this is just a little bit tweaking this year, and great that we got more positive response in the consultation. So it's kind of working. And I just wanted to couple of things. So the coach parking on page 47, I know we're charging 15, so that's quite reasonable. I mean, I just wondered maybe next year or we could consider a little bit of a small increase. I noticed that York is £27 for a stay. And obviously, when you're in a coach, there's probably, how many people on coach? Maybe 58, so they'll all be paying their tickets. So really, if they only even pay 50p extra each, that's contributing to, you could make a little bit there, I guess. And, obviously Canterbury is a popular tourist destination, so we're not going to be short of coaches coming along. And also, page 36, really pleased, thank you, to see the carbon feedback there as I asked at a previous meeting, and hopefully we'll see that in all the next reports, and we can see we're going to be able to see the increase of carbon, not more carbon, you know what I mean. We want to see it getting better, if you like. And I just did a quick Google search. We're making a saving of 59 tonnes of carbon is the equivalent of 197,000 one-mile car journeys, or 8 trips around the earth. So, that's kind of, so next time we have this report, I want to say that's 16 trips around the earth that we're saving this, so yeah, hopefully we'll see that. But yeah, great, thank you.
It was a lot, wasn't it, Mel? I was quite surprised at that figure, actually. It's a lot, isn't it? Who was next? Yeah, come back, and then I think it's Chris after you, Alex.
Just on the coaches point, we've looked at it, and the issue that we have is that the experience for the coach parties isn't the best at the moment in terms of where they have to park and where they have to go. And obviously we want to encourage that as well. I think in future, as we look at the local PAM, we really want to bring in a better experience for those coach parks, but a lot of them have to drop off and then go and park somewhere else, or there's a walk in there because it's not the best. So we chose not to focus too much on the tariff for coaches, because I think quite rightly a lot of those companies would go, well, actually, if we're going to be paying a bit more, then we could do with being slightly nearer the city centre and perhaps having a few more conditions. But that's definitely an area that I think we want to expand, obviously, the number of coach parties and then make the experience for them better of coming in. And once that's the case, then I think we could probably see an increase in those fees. But yes, well done for picking up on the carbon thing. I can't believe I didn't mention it. I mentioned everything else. Sorry.
We couldn't believe it either, Alex, to be truthful. But over to you, Chris.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up a few things. I'm happy to support the proposal. I think that the change in behaviour in Canterbury benefits the whole district, although I have to admit and have continued to highlight that the system is designed for Canterbury and doesn't work as disproportionately as well on the coast, where we don't have the range of car park alternative options in different locations. I think the key thing at this point is then to look at what additional flexibility exists within the system. And I was really interested in a couple of the public comments looking at whether the 10 grand that we assign for car parking incentives is enough, and whether it's not been uplifted with inflation over multiple years. I do appreciate that it also becomes one of those things which at the budget is very easy for people to pull out in order to make a saving. So I think I would prefer us to potentially spend the next year really looking at what we want of that and having a clear idea of it, so that both in the budget people can understand what they're pulling away from. But also, it's really easy to say that if you reduce car parking, effectively people will come. I think the coastal model has seen some encouraging statistics coming through. But the key thing is, it is testing of the concept. And I think if we have been able to prove that the concept can work, either by supporting the residence rate or increasing longer stays, we really could look at incentives with a lot more imagination than we have historically, which is basically just giving free parking where people are arguably going to come into town anyway. So I'm quite happy to support the proposal, but I'd like maybe when the coastal parking plan has kind of stopped to really kind of sit there and think, what can we get out of this? And also just to pick a little bit at the numbers on the coast. I mean, it's always dead easy to say it was a wet thing. That's not the first time I've heard that in a report. I guess I'm interested in really looking at it over a longer term period, because, you know, if you are going to prove it to me over 7 to 8 years, which is what we should have the data for, rather than 2 or 3, which we use to present at the back.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris. I think the thing that always interests me on that, and it seems to links with what Chris is saying really, is this relationship between residents. You know, surely it should be the residents that benefit from it. Because if you come to Whitstable, you go on a visit, you're not really that worried, are you? You know, you might moan about it, but you probably moan about it if it's a 10, or you moan about it if it's 20, you know, so it would be the same, wouldn't it? But with residents, when they're going in to do their shopping or whatever, then the discount is helpful, I think, and something I think it's good. It's what we wanted to do, wasn't it, when we came into office, was actually to focus much more on that, and that's where it come from, wasn't it? So, you know, I can see some synergies there. Do you want to come back on that? And then I've lost track. It was Connie after you. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, 100% agree with that. That when we looked at those incentives over the winter, we really wanted to focus it around the residence rate as well, because there were incentives for people within the district to be travelling to different shopping areas and going to places. And obviously, you know, we do start from the principle that people in Whitstable don't just drive into Whitstable to do stuff, and people in Herne Bay don't just drive into Herne Bay, and people in Canterbury don't just drive into Canterbury. That very occasionally people from those areas may visit the other areas as well. Therefore, that this is a whole district strategy. That being said, we did say when we set this strategy out that we're always looking to be open to change, to have a look at it, to see what we could do to achieve the goals that we've set out. So that's something I'm quite happy to have a work with you, Chris, to have a look at, see if we can do anything over the course of the next year. And I will just remind you that I think the first year that we put in an OSPA, I think we had 30,000 in for the incentives pot, but that was whittled down at the budget meeting within about 2 weeks. And I think I don't want to second guess the reason that that figure was there, but I think it's sort of once bitten, twice shy a little bit on trying to increase that pot. But maybe we can do something and see what we can do over the course of the year to see what we can increase it. And obviously, if we can demonstrate we can do more interesting things with it, then there's a reason to increase it next year.
Right, thanks for that, Alex. Connie?
Yes, just to say that I've been looking at the comments, and I think particularly the overview and also in the consultation, one of the themes that comes through is that people feel unhappy about paying for parking when they come into work in Canterbury. And one of the things that I can't help thinking about is about sort of trying to change that behaviour. And also I include students in that. I remember quite clearly when Pfizer were very big in Sandwich, they promoted a car sharing scheme. And certainly, I mean, park and ride is so cheap that sort of promoting a car sharing thing would actually, I think, be in our benefit as well, because it would increase the usage of the park and ride. I know that there's problems with class sharing and so forth, but if a large organisation like Pfizer could make it work, I'm sure we could give a little nudge theory to it. The other thing that I'm picking up on is that people are actually asking for more enforcement officers, which I was very pleased to read. I do understand that, because particularly in my ward, Barton Ward, because there's the 2 universities, the college and numerous schools, people do complain about parking at certain times and that. And it seems that every school PTA is demanding that they have their own enforcement officer to come at school drop-off and pick-up times, which of course is impossible. But I don't think it works that you can use part of the parking fees to finance the parking. No, it was worth a try. I thought worth a try, absolutely. But certainly, I do think we should think carefully around publicity and nudge theory, and working with, again, I've said this before, but I'll say it again, working with the universities to really get them to promote to their students about using the park and ride. I know the actual top guys were very, very keen on reopening the Sturry Park and Ride, and I would wholeheartedly support and work with you if you want to approach the universities again to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. So I think we also had conversations a while back, didn't we, about, let's just call it the links with business as well, and the business sort of licensing businesses to, you know, buy spaces in advance and cheaper rates. And there was that some comments, wasn't there, about the Riverside, you know, in the notes, weren't there? That as well, sort of it's just a classic example, and whether businesses are happy to get on board with that, you know, sort of start paying us for some spaces and doing it that way. I mean, I guess it's fine. We started to talk about that. I don't know, it's opportunities. Yep. Okay, Alex, come back on that then.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some ongoing discussions. We've had a few conversations early on, and obviously with Riverside, that was moved down from to a Band 2 car park at the request of the tenants there as well. So again, that was actually, as Mel said, last year was a difficult year. It was the year before that was more difficult. Actually, last year we were, and again, I absolutely take the point. I'd love to do more for people who come in and live and work, but I do think that those numbers demonstrate that people who are travelling in regularly have worked out where those car parks that haven't increased in price are. So actually, if you were living and working and driving into Canterbury when this administration started, you could be paying the same price for your parking as you were then, which, you know, and think about the inflation that we've had over that period of time, eye-watering in some cases. So I think that there's a lot there, and I'm not suggesting by any stretch that it's perfect, but there's definitely more we can do. But I think that there is a lot in there for those people, and always happy to speak to businesses and universities about seeing what we can do more to for them to help us with that behaviour change we're looking for.
Yeah, thanks for that. So, any other comments on that? If not, we'll just sort ourselves out. This has been proposed and seconded, is it? Yep. Okay, that's fantastic. So a vote now is to, we don't resolve this, do we? We recommend, don't we? Was it resolved?
So implement.
Let's resolve it. Okay. Yeah, no, this is the big one. This is the resolving bit. So that's okay. So anyway, vote 4 is to resolve the parking proposals.
That's carried unanimously with 9 votes, Chair.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's great. Now, when we first started the meeting, I said there was the exciting bit, right? Then we had the little bit, you know, with the finances. Then we had building up the excitement through the parking, and now we have that mid-meeting excitement, and it's all down to Chris now. So this one is town and the city centre strategies. So I think I'll just lead that with Chris. Obviously make your proposals, etc., and get it seconded, please. And then we're just listening. Thank you.
So am I the mid-meeting lull, the main act, or the kind of headliner? Regardless of what it is, tonight we have the opportunity to agree the city and town centre strategies for Canterbury, Herne Bay and Whitstable. And it's kind of quite useful, I think, being on the back of the parking review. Normally, the parking review sees members of the business community sitting in those green seats over there telling us how we are absolutely destroying their business. They're thankfully not here today, although the town centre strategy has been an opportunity where we've engaged with quite a lot of them to try to understand some of the difficulties and find alternative ways in which, as a city council, we can support our high streets more than just adjusting parking costs. In the last week alone, I facilitated some quite useful discussions at the Little Green Bookshop in Herne Bay, in the Horsebridge in Whitstable, and at the Felons Coffee House in Canterbury with local businesses. And it's fair to say that, to be honest, working on the high street at the moment isn't easy. A combination of rising kind of basic costs, some substantive changes to business rates, or particularly the rationale for dealing with the valuation of business rates, and lack of money in people's pockets means that even though businesses may look like they're busy, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're bringing a huge amount of profit. And we rely on the tenacity and confidence of entrepreneurs in the district to mean that the places that we visit, that we call home, are exciting and buzzy places to be. I've increasingly in those conversations basically begun to tell people that the City Council doesn't have a magic wand to be able to deal with the local economy. In fact, our revenue budget for last year was as much money as David Lloyd employed in its capital programme in Herne Bay, which I think is worth considering. But I do think that we have a role in ensuring that our high streets are engaging places which people can call home. And key to that is having a consistency and a kind of a clear idea about how and what we engage with as a council. A lot of the conversations we've had on these town centre strategies have identified some of the bad blood which has existed within businesses in the council over the last couple of years as we started marketing campaigns for their areas, removed some of those, started some events, removed some of those, and they've effectively, sensibly asking, well, what does the council offer me as a business owner? Hopefully these town centre strategies are designed to present some of that. They give 15-year overviews for each of the 3 areas and give us as a council a clear understanding of the problems in each of the areas, but also the strengths that we want to build our plans on. They give us a way of working with local businesses in a different way, of forming new governance arrangements whereby we won't be the only people seeking to lead on the regeneration. We will formulate boards and bring independent members of the local businesses together in order to work on that. And they propose changes to things that we can invest in, both in terms of property that we own or spaces that we have control over and management on, which can really make a difference to what people see on a day-to-day basis. That being the case, I'm quite willing to effectively just take questions rather than go too much into them. I hope you've all done your homework. Just a couple of key things. As I said, this was a very iterative approach. And so as a result of some of the feedback from last week, I want to make 3 tiny tweaks to the Canterbury City Strategies Outcomes section. I am suggesting that when we agree the proposal today, we agree 3 little changes, which are: we amend outcome 1 to read that high-profile vacant and brownfield sites will be brought back into productive use. We tweak point 8 to say that digital connectivity is strong and reliable, supporting residents, businesses, and visitors. So it's more than just phone connection. And that we add the word event to point 10, where we say that Canterbury is a leading conference, hotel, and event destination in the southeast of England. I don't think they really changed their ambition too much. So I propose that the city and town centre strategies for Canterbury, Herne Bay and Whitstable, appendices A, B and C, are adopted. Can I have a seconder? Alex.
Seconded by Alex. Thank you. Can I just come back in to start with? I mean, I am mega impressed. I think we needed this to put us back on track as a council. Chris is absolutely right. Having a thriving high streets, thriving communities doesn't happen by accident. It happens with hard work and commitment over years. And we've not been here long as an administration, but we've made a lot of changes, a lot of difference. We've got a lot more to do. That's not, do justice, but I think these give us a clear path. I think 2 things stick out, being slightly odd. I suppose it's 1,001 things that are in there, but I like the way that we've not lost sight of our UN Sustainable Development Goals throughout that, and what we do in the plans is links with those, but also threading through it is the fact of the health outcomes of the communities that these towns and cities serve, and linking that end of this equation with the bright, shiny, glossy stuff that perhaps can lead the focus, lead the eye. It's what it achieves for the communities that are in the towns and cities, as well as what it can do to our visitors and our businesses and the businesses that employ the people from the towns and so on. So I think that's really important to do that. It's a very, very wide reach of people when we have a successful strategy like this. So I'm really impressed. And I thank the team. And I think I'll say now, thanks to Matt as well, who's here tonight, for putting this together with Chris and the others. So amazing piece of work. So that's just some more comments. Alex, to start us off.
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to echo that. I know the amount of work that's gone into that, particularly by Matt and by Chris as well. You definitely helped a bit, I'm sure. But no, in all seriousness, I know that Chris has gone above and beyond in terms of getting his hands dirty and going out and attending a lot of meetings. It does feel like a really long time ago from sort of going down to see the stand outside the Beanie in August and putting the stickers on the maps and seeing how many people are engaging with it and really seeing that it was the sort of thing that people wanted. I think it's a fabulous document or set of documents. I think there's a lot in there, and I really, really like the focus, obviously, on keeping sustainable development goals in there. I like the fact that there are some specific outcomes in there that we can hold ourselves to. But I think that what I like about the tone of the final document is there's a degree of optimism to it that I think you don't often find in these, is that we get a lot of, and I think obviously the nature of the kind of roles we find ourselves in, we often hear the negatives. And they are mentioned in there. We hear about sort of the voids in the city centres and stuff like that, and quite rightly so. But there's a lot of positive stuff in here, and I think that's the point, is what we want to build on. And the vision here, if anything, I think there's a plea there for everybody to say, well, look, if you want people to come to our cities and towns, it might be a great idea to tell them that they're nice. You know, that's a good start. Or maybe we don't want people to come and we want to keep it all for ourselves, because it's a wonderful place to live. All three, you know, Canterbury, Herne Bay and Whitstable, and the villages as well. They're wonderful, wonderful places to live. But there's no point in having them if you don't share them with visitors and show them off to people who come here. And I think this document really captures both what a wonderful place it is now and the potential for all of the areas of the district to push on and become better in the future, if that was ever possible. So great document, great piece of work, and I fully support it.
And of course, not to do it down, but it's got to be such an intrinsic part of our local plan. You know, this is absolutely the building blocks of what a good local plan is going to be. We haven't got long to get that over the line now, and this is so important to get that there. It's going to really help. So, Pip.
Yes, I don't want to delay the meeting too much, but I want to acknowledge really that I think I came rather late to this particular party. Obviously, I heard it discussed early doors about, at town centre strategies and about commissioning, some external consultants to help us work this up in a tight time frame, and obviously the work of, Officer, Matt and Chris as the lead councillor. And So I've known about it, and I've been engaged with it, and I've been to, the consultation events, in the High Street and over in the King's Hall and so on. But I think it's only as it's all finally come together that I've realised actually how important a document it is, and particularly at this phase of the council's life and where we are with the local plan. And I think it's absolutely an astonishingly good, well-produced document. And I endorse, everything that Alex has just said, and thank particularly Chris and Matt Rain and the others for their work on it.
Yeah, I think I concur with that, actually. It's in the last sort of, few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, I suppose, it starts to become a series of documents in their rough and ready form and then come together. It's just been, you think this is what we want here, isn't it? It's really good. Okay, any other comments, or shall we just do that? I've got Connie. Yep.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for the report, Chris and Matt. I think, it's an excellent piece of work. One of the things that a few things that have already been said, but I think they're worth repeating. It's a shame we've only got 2 years really to sort of get this up and going, but I think we can do it. I'm really pleased that Chris took on this part of the portfolio, which was, very much needed. We have challenges in Canterbury, but we also have opportunities. And one of the things that I can relate to very much are two things. First of all, we have always suffered from a lack of high quality hotel accommodation. Yes, we've got the Hampton by Hilton or Hilton by Hampton, whichever way it is, but that only replaced Slatters. And yes, we've got the Premier Inn, but that's hardly the high quality. And I'm hoping that as higher education is going through its very painful metamorphosis, that we might actually see some more conference accommodation being released up on the University of Kent. I don't know. I really think that they've got the space to do that. I know they haven't got the money to do that, but that is something that Canterbury really needs, that really high quality hotel accommodation. People that I know from overseas who come to Canterbury, because their concept of distance is different to ours, they actually look at the map and they think, oh yeah, I'll stay in Canterbury and I'll stay down at Chilham or wherever, or sort of Eastwell Manor, because it's only a hop and a skip into Canterbury. And I think perhaps that's another thing for us to look at, is sort of linking in with the high quality hotels which are in the periphery, and that. And I'm so pleased to see the Via Francigena mentioned. I can't tell you, I'm absolutely leaping up and down for joy here. So thank you very much.
Thanks for that. I just didn't know how you mentioned it. Didn't mention it earlier on, Connie, actually, to be truthful. But Charlotte.
Thank you. It's great to see these. I think they're fantastic pieces of work, and I think many organisations, community groups, people interested in our area will find them incredibly helpful in shaping their proposals for action within our district as well going forwards. I do note on the short-term priority and medium-term priority for the local governance planning, you do say we have approved further economic development resource which can work along the panels. When we're voting to approve these strategies, are we also approving that resource? Are we approving the creation of these panels? Is this part of the same vote? Are all things approved by our voting to proceed?
Yeah, go on, Chris.
The additional resource for the economic development team is obviously a budgetary issue, although there is a commitment in the existing budget which will go forward to for cabinet for agreement. I think the adoption of the strategies is with the governance framework. And whilst I agree with Connie that it is a shame that we've only got 2 years, I think that the key thing about here is that effectively these are long-term plans. And actually, these need to be owned by a wider range of people than just us. And some of the capital that will need to be brought forward to these also won't come from us. It will come from the private sector. So in many ways, getting these over the line is great, but actually the next section is kind of also key, where we need to populate those project directories with ideas which we have, but also which other key stakeholders within each of the communities have. And so Rachel's comments, Chair, are kind of like still very much in the kind of in the debate, so to speak, as we form these panels and take this work forward over the next couple of months.
Yeah, go back, Charlotte, please.
So we are approving this as a sort of proposal for governance structure. Will you then commit to coming back and giving us regular updates on how those proceed and their formation?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's, if you're happy with that, Chris, then that staples it down. I mean, just get that minuted. I think that's useful, because I think you're right. The key bit is that we've not lost this. This is like 15 years, but actually what we've got to do is to build in momentum for the next two years, with enough kicking into the third year, the first year of the unitary, or if you like, so that the momentum's there, that's very hard to stop. And if we make sure we've set up all the governance processes, we've got contacts made with people, we don't know quite how they're going to actually pan out, do we? And the right thing to do is not write in detail, it's going to have X number of members and meet on a Wednesday afternoon. It's just that it'll have to come, but it will come and it will be there. And then it'll be inherited, and then it will be what people do. So let's not get despondent about that. This is deliberately long term, because life is long term. We should have done this 15 years ago, and we'd be then reinventing that as well. But it didn't happen, did it? We weren't in charge then, were we? So that's fine. Yeah, so good point. Mel.
Yeah, just a quick comment. So yeah, great document, and visually really, really easy to read and looks great and all that, very colourful pictures and all that. I mean, just look at it. But just wanted to say, I mean, it's very much like a collaboration, isn't it? This strategy, and I sort of liken it to the Net Zero strategy that will be coming to this Net Zero and adaptation strategy that will be coming to this cabinet very soon. So obviously, we as a council, you have your own targets, but to reach the bigger the bigger goals, the 2045 goals. You have to work in partnership and collaborate, but someone has to lead it, and this is very much what this document's about, saying this is the vision, this is how we're going to lead it, and let's get everyone on board on that. So that's really great. We have mentioned the LGR and how it stacks up with that, and like you're right, Alan, the more we get that out there now and start moving with it, then everyone, that strategy is going to be part of the DNA going forward, and we're not going to lose sight of that. We want to keep it going. So very much agree with that. So thank you very much, and we'll be voting it through.
Spot on, Mel. It's good. Any other comments? If not, we need to resolve to what's the word? So just remind people that the city and town centre strategies for Canterbury, Herne Bay and Whitstable, Appendix A, B and C are adopted. It's been seconded, proposed and seconded by others. So just remind us what we've got to. So if you vote for it, then they will be adopted and will be our starter.
That was carried unanimously, Chair, with 9 votes.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, team. That's right. Now, I promised you this. Now we deliver. So, okay. So does anyone want a break, by the way, at all? Just a 2-minute break at all? Yeah. Okay. We'll take just 2 minutes just to get a glass of water or whatever, and then we'll crack on with the next part of the meeting. So. Hi, that's crack on now. Thanks for that. So right. Now we're back up to item 11 now. So if you lost the place, it's page 418. If any of you got it. So okay. So this is the capital and investment and treasury management strategy for 2026-27. Mike is going to introduce this in a minute or two, and we'll make a recommendation and get that seconded. Nikki Mills is here, our finance and procurement director. So we can ask any dodgy questions we like, and if Mike doesn't know the answer, then Nikki will surely know the answer to that. But please, let's listen to what Mike's got to say, ask questions as we need to. Let's make sure we've got a really good, clear understanding of all of this. And for those people that are listening at home, it's as open, as honest as we possibly can be. Thanks for that, Mike.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll start with the introduction, so whoever seconds this does know what they're seconding. I'd like to give you a brief overview of the Treasury Management Capital Strategy and the framework that guides how we manage the public funds responsibly. At the heart of our Treasury Management is a simple principle. The Council must balance its budget, and that means the money we raise must match the money we spend. To achieve this, we carefully plan our cash flow so that funds are available when needed, and we invest any surplus safely, prioritising security and liquidity before considering return. Alongside the day-to-day cash management, we also fund the Council's long-term capital plans. These plans determine how much we need to borrow to deliver major projects, and we manage this through a mix of short and long-term borrowing, or by using cash available. From time to time, we may also restructure debt to ensure we are achieving value for money. Our work is guided by the CIPFA Code of Practice, which sets out three key principles. First, that we must have clear, formal strategies for reporting arrangements. Second, that managing risk, especially the security of public money, is our prime objective. And third, that pursuing value for money is essential, as long as we do so within a strong risk management framework. CIPFA emphasised that protecting capital is more important than maximising returns, and that's certainly a strategy that we've taken. To meet these obligations, the Council receives and approves three main reports each year: our annual Treasury Management Strategy, a mid-year update, and the final annual Treasury report. These include our capital plans, prudential indicators, borrowing and investment strategies, and our approach to the minimum revenue provision. Quarterly and monthly updates also ensure that officers and members have continued oversight. Alongside this, we prepare a capital strategy, which explains how capital spending, borrowing and treasury activity support the delivery of council services. We also maintain a non-treasury investment strategy, which covers service and commercial investments made to support local priorities or generate income. Together, these strategies ensure that our financial management is robust, transparent and aligned with our long-term goals, safeguarding public resources whilst enabling investment in our community. So no real change from last year or previous years, but I'd like to recommend to Council that A, the attached Treasury Management Strategy, including the minimum revenue provision policy for 26-27 is approved. B, that the attached capital strategy for 26-27 is approved. And C, the attached investment strategy for 26-27 is approved. That can be seconded, please.
Seconded, Chair.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So, and Pippa seconded that for us. So, we can. I think Mike has done a really sterling intro there. I think that's fair enough. I think we want a bit of a read of the document as well before now. I say this, is there anything you want to add to that, Nikki, at all? Okay, good. Is anybody else want to make a comment on that one? Yeah, go ahead, Mel.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mike and Nikki. I was just referring to page 431 on the ESGs. So it says, you know, I just wouldn't mind some clarification. So it says that the authority does not currently include ESG scoring within the individual investment level, but you use the responsible banking principles. But I was just wondering if you would be moving to ESG criteria in the near future.
Whoever feels best to answer that. Thank you, Nikki. That's fine.
Thank you, Chair. We have such little investments. We only use global money market funds, so we don't have any investments substantial enough to warrant looking into that. But yeah, I can have a look and see what are global money market funds and where they sit. I don't know off the top of my head, but there's not much activity around that we have because we don't have a lot of cash, therefore, to invest. So,
Yeah. Do you want to add to that at all, Mike? I think I get the drift of that. So,
I think Nick has pretty much said it. I mean, the money we've got invested is pretty much managing the cash flow throughout the year. It's not as if we've got pots of money sitting in investments in foreign bank accounts or anything like that. It's in and out. So those opportunities for longer term investments aren't there. If we've got spare money, we use it to reduce borrowing.
yeah. Yeah, it just comes a bit later, doesn't it? So, fine. Okay. Right. If there's nothing else, then what we need to do, it's been proposed and seconded in this, hasn't it? So we are going to take a recorded vote, which means is we to recommend to council the capital and investment and treasury management strategy for 26-27. So vote 4 is to recommend to council.
That's carried unanimously with 8 votes, Chair.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Okay. Okay. The next one is item 12, which is draft housing revenue and capital budget. Mike is going to introduce this one. It sort of breaks itself into two bits. Mike will speak on it, and Pip will also be speaking on these items as well. So it's good to do that. Gary Peskett is here tonight as the officer looking after this as well. If we need to ask those dodgy questions, then we'll see what we can get. So I think if I leave it with you to do the recommendations, please, and I'm sure Pip will second those as well. Thanks. As you go through those, of course.
Thank you, Chair. So I will start off saying that we're here to resolve A, to approve the proposed annual rent increase for 26-27 of CPI plus 1%, a total of 4.8% in accordance with the government rent policy, and to recommend B, that the council approves the draft housing revenue and capital budgets for 26-27 set out in appendices A to C.
Seconded, Chair.
That's great. Over to you, Mike and Pip, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I will try not to say too much of what Pip was going to say. I have forewarned her of what I was going to say because I think last year she'd ended up crossing out most of her comments by the time it came to her. So this is the draft housing revenue account and capital budgets for 26-27. Plans that reflect not just numbers on a page, but our collective commitment to safe, high-quality homes for every resident that we serve. We all know the challenges before us. The housing revenue account continues to face rising costs, increasing regulatory demands, and the long shadow of past national rent policies. Yet despite these pressures, our purpose has never been clearer. Every pound we invest, every decision we make helps ensure that families have warm, secure and dignified homes. Whilst current government rent policy allows a 4.8% increase, it still falls short of meeting the real costs of maintaining and improving our homes. But rather than shrink from these pressures, we're stepping forward, embedding the principles of AWAB's law, responding to the regulator of social housing, improving safety, decarbonising our stock, preparing for the new Decent Home Standard and continuing the vital work of bringing new homes for future generations. We also note the government's commitment to phased rent convergence from 27-28. As more details emerge, we will continue refining our plans to ensure stability and sustainability for our housing service. This budget is intentionally a one-year plan, reflecting the need for agility in a fast-changing environment. Cabinet endorsed these principles for consultation last November, and I'm pleased to say the Overview Committee has now unanimously supported our direction. This report before you includes updated policy changes and clearer information on service charges, strengthening transparency for our tenants and our community. What's important today is not just what this budget contains, but what it represents. Our determination to protect our housing service, to invest in the well-being of our tenants, and to build a future where every home meets the standards our residents deserve. And it is challenging work, but it is meaningful work, and I'm confident that we have the financial structure in place to deliver a quality housing service for the district. And I'm sure that Pip will now elaborate on exactly what that means for our residents.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mike. You summarised the financial underpinnings for the HRA capital and revenue account. And I want to thank, as always, the work of our officers in Housing and Finance departments, ably led by the Directors of People and the Director of Finance and Procurement, and without whom none of this administration's ambitions could be developed, costed and made viable. So thank you. Thanks to Overview Committee, who met on the 22nd of January, and as Mike, you've said, unanimously endorsed these proposed budgets. Their comments are always helpful and demonstrate cross-party interest in the quality, quantity and efficient management of our housing stock. The document's already been out for consultation, and our excellent residents' engagement panel has endorsed the proposed rent increases. Last year's social housing regulator inspection, along with renewed and refreshed policies and strategies, has brought focus to the detailed delivery of service improvements, monitored and scrutinised both by myself and the All-Party Cabinet Advisory Committee, who will be meeting again next month. So, Cabinet, we have delegated authority to approve the annual rent variation provided it accords with government policy, which these proposals do. These budgets will unlock the delivery of our ambitious service improvements, both capital and revenue. Over this coming year, we'll focus on both driving down unnecessary costs and increasing our revenue take through a wide range of programmes. For example, the implementation of the first phase of our older persons accommodation redesign, outsourcing our garage letting and maintenance, clamping down on fraud, focusing on recharging for works needed before reletting can occur, and improving our voids turnaround times. Our capital works will deliver significant improvements to our ageing housing stock through the Warm Homes programme, as well as working towards the new Decent Home Standard. And a reserve has been established to facilitate the development or acquisition of new homes, regeneration and disposals, which in turn should generate income. My last 2 points focus on people. It's only by investing in our staff that we can turn our ambitions into reality. And these budget proposals do just that. And finally, all of this is about homes, providing individuals, couples and families with homes they can afford, of a quality they can be proud of, homes that are safe and healthy, easy to heat and free from hazards, homes they enjoy waking up in and coming home to. A decent home should be available to everyone, and this ambition is at the heart of these proposals. Thank you.
So true. So true. And what Mike and Pip have just highlighted there, I think every single one of us is 100% behind. There's nothing like a home that's safe, yours, secure, for a family to grow up in, is it? And I think that's just so important. And I think this budget starts to allow us to rebuild those sort of difficulties of those years that have brought us to this, not the best place in the world to be, but we're going to not give up on that. We've got too much to do, too many families depend on us to do that. So let's get moving on it and get this budget passed, I think, and get some work out there. So does anyone else want to add anything to it? Or shall we just vote that one through? We need to do this in 2 votes, by the way. So if you're happy with that, everyone happy? Yeah, amazing. Okay, so the first one we need to resolve, which is the rent increase bit. So a vote for is to allow that rent increase to go ahead. That's our decision, of course.
It's carried unanimously, Chair, with 9 votes.
Thanks. And this one, point B, is to recommend to council they approve the draft housing revenue and capital budget. That's the next vote.
That's also carried unanimously with 9 votes, Chair.
That's amazing. Thank you for that. I think we can be really proud of this part of our agenda as well. So that's good. Item 13 now, general fund revenue and capital budgets. Again, I'm going to ask Mike to set out this detail. I'm sure a volunteer will second that as well. There's a very long piece that Mike needs to read out, so bear with us on that one. At the end of whatever he's summing up or whatever, or all the work that he wants to do. So, okay, Nikki's here to help with the questions if we need to. So, Mike, over to you, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll start off with my introduction and then read the recommendation at the end, which is almost as long as my speech. One thing I did notice today, actually, when looking at the agenda, is that we are now on page 495 out of 603. So I'm jolly glad we don't print these out anymore, because I don't think we could afford to do that and post them to councillors. So the budget papers, all 100 pages plus here, always a substantial report with a great deal of detail, figures and analysis. Now, much of it will, of course, be familiar to Cabinet members, as we've been closely involved in shaping this budget through discussions that began in the autumn, covering both the current year and the year ahead. And I know that Cabinet colleagues will be looking forward to my full budget speech at Council, so I'll keep my remarks slightly shorter and less entertaining this evening. There should be no surprises for Cabinet members, as this budget reflects the collective work and shared understandings we've developed over recent months. And Cabinet will recall that in November, we considered a report setting out the Council's financial prospects for 26-27. And this was followed by a 2-month public consultation. The report before us today brings together any new information since November and presents an updated budget informed by both the latest data and the feedback received through that consultation. This is the penultimate budget of this council, and I believe that gives us some particular significance to it. When I took on the role of Cabinet Member for Finance, I was determined we would have robust financial structures, not only to meet our statutory obligations, but to continue striving to deliver high quality services for our residents across everything that we do. That ambition remains, even as we prepare for the significant changes ahead. Local government reorganisation and devolution are approaching rapidly, bringing with them both considerable challenges and opportunities. And this budget reflects a clear and responsible approach to managing that transition. In particular, we've established the ability to draw down up to £500,000 from the Budget Stabilisation Reserve to support the effective and efficient delivery of the work required to meet the government's devolution and local government reorganisation agenda. We also ensured that funding is in place to deliver a community governance review for the for the non-parished areas across the district. Whatever views we may have about unitary councils, their geographic boundaries or devolution, we are united and determined that we do all that we can to prepare for it. This is, in many respects, a good housekeeping budget, one that builds on the solid foundations we've already put in place and ensures that we hand over this authority to a future unitary council in the best possible financial condition. And I'm sure Cabinet members will wish to highlight how this budget supports priorities with their own portfolios, and I look forward to hearing those contributions. Changes to the central government funding formula have made the preparation for this budget more complex than usual. However, we welcome the move now towards longer funding stability, even if this council will not be in existence long enough to benefit fully from some of those arrangements. We have limited the proposed council tax increases to 2.98%, slightly below the government's maximum 2.99% due to rounding. Whilst inflation above that level continues to present challenges, I'm confident that this council remains a capable and well-managed authority with the resources and discipline to respond effectively. We received 49 responses to the budget consultation, all of which have been carefully considered in shaping this budget, and I'd like to thank everyone in the district who took time to engage with that process. I'd also like to thank members of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for their constructive input, Cabinet colleagues for their continued engagement, and in particular, the Council's finance team. Their hard work in delivering a balanced budget, interpreting new legislation, accurately forecasting income, and ensuring financial discipline throughout the year cannot be overstated. This budget demonstrates stability, responsibility, and a preparedness for the future, and I recommend it to Cabinet. So what I am recommending to you is A, that the Council approves the net revenue budget amount of £25,840,000 for 26-27. B, that the Council approves a council tax for Band D of £254.40 for 26-27, an increase of 2.98% when compared with 25-26. C, that the Council approves the financial plan for 26-27 to 28-29 set out in Appendix 1 as the basis for the budget in each of those years, with the projected council tax increase being limited to not more than 2.99% each year. C, that the fees and charges set out in Appendix 4 be approved. E, that the reserve set out in Appendix 5 be approved. F, that the authority be given to incur expenditure on schemes brought into the capital programme since the council meeting in February 2025 for 26-27 set out in Appendix 2. G, that subject to any alterations necessary, the draft capital programme set out in Appendix 2 be adopted as the basis for planning the approved capital budget. H, that authority be given to the Joint Chief Executives and Directors to incur expenditure and otherwise exercise the powers delegated to them in the Constitution in order to implement the capital programme. I, that for the cost recovery fees and charges, open brackets, highlighted in amber in Appendix 4, close bracket, officers are able to further increase or decrease charges during the year by up to 5% if costs vary in consultation with the Chair of Cabinet. And J, that the Section 151 officer, in consultation with the portfolio holder for finance, can draw down up to £500,000 from the Budget Stabilisation Reserve to enable the effective and efficient delivery of works required to deliver the government's devolution and local government reorganisation agenda. Thank you.
That's great. Can we have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Lee. Okay. Right. Any comments from anybody at all? We happy to accept that? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, go on.
I had a couple of things written down, Chair. Correct if I'm wrong, we're not using reserves in the planned budget moving forward, which I think is nice. I don't know if I've read that wrong. There was drawdown, I know specific reasons, but we're not planning to do that. And I think I just want to thank everyone for all their work, really, because it's a lot of documents and residents won't really look into the detail. So we'll skim over it, vote through, and it's a vast amount of money, which is detailed, concisely accounted for, and a lot of things online are about people not spending the money wisely. So I think I'd like to publicly thank Mike, Nikki, and also the chief execs and all the officers, because obviously they do that graft. You know, we obviously give the political steer as cabinet, and there's some great things in there. And the one little thing I had on my list, and apologies I have to say out loud, is the capital investment in Herne Bay continues next year, which I like to see, because I always feel like it gets a bit of a raw deal when I get grief. So there's some good projects the money's set aside for. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Nikki, come back on that, please.
Thank you very much. No, it was a separate point, just to mention that I've just noticed as well, there is a 3p difference between the council tax report and the budget report on the council tax for Band D. So I just need to clarify that, and if Cabinet are happy, I will update the council tax report for full council. It will be at the level of £254.40, not £254.43. So it will be going down, which will be the budget report figure 2.98%, not 2.99%, for clarification. Thank you.
It's fine, Nikki, we'll leave that with you. And just that's Mike will sign off anything that needs doing there, so that's fine. Thank you for that. Any other points or comments? Okay, so we need to recommend this, isn't it? It's a whole recommendation to council. So if you're happy with what Mike read out a few minutes ago, then vote for.
It's carried unanimously, Chair, with 9 votes.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, and the next item on the agenda, date and time of next meeting, that's 7 p.m. on the 16th of March. I don't think we've got any extra urgent business or anything like that. No exclusions to press and public and all those sort of things. In that case, there's no other urgent business that falls within the Exempt Provisions Act, yeah? In that case, we'll close the meeting at 2100. Thank you all amazingly. Thank you very much.